Now, just to run through the work I currently do, we're a consortium of about 50 professionals from 30 different countries, and we support Antarctic research and expeditions. So we provide a logistics, safety, and communications framework for expeditions, and we shift in an incredible amount of modules for building sites, for remote research camps, and so forth. And this is once again where the design component comes in. So our camp itself is busy going through a bit of an upgrade. It is a tented camp. We move with this glacier. So this is an Ilyushin 76. It's a strategic airlifter. And we have a very charming Russian crew that flies it. And we land on a 4-kilometer blue ice runway. Now, camp is in this valley over here. So this was taken after hours, again at midnight, because it's the only time you have available to do recreational activities, as you can probably attest, Chris. Now, at the time, I was climbing what is Mount Rossman with 2 Sherpas, Namgya and Lapka Gelu. Lapka Gelu holds the world record for the fastest Everest ascent. I think that is Dylan Taylor, also world famous mountaineer. Now, can I just tell you, as a Afrikaans boykie, this kind of thing breaks your pride when you're busy climbing a mountain and you're dying, and a Sherpa is jumping from rock to rock behind you, humming to himself. And climbed it, took the photo. Our camp is in the valley. It's not as impressive as you might think. That is the current comms facility. So we have gone through an upgrade phase in the last year. So this photo was taken during the centenary of the Munson Scott arrival at the South Pole two seasons ago. And that is the comms and operations module. So my job in Antarctica right now is to oversee the comms, and from the right over there we have meteorological satellite comms to the Iridium data comms and to the air traffic comms. So I do a bit of the air traffic following and advisories in our area. Now we have meteorologists, weather forecasters, operations crew, and communications crew sitting in this one building. And we've had to go through several design iterations for the new designs of this building. And we'll talk about that shortly. So that is my personal background. I live in that charming tent for about 3 months of the year right now, and arrived back from Union Glacier earlier this year, and then continued with the educational campaign that we are running. That is part of camp. We have a tented camp, but we shift an incredible amount of modules, as I mentioned, using the Ilyushin, and then we shift it out into the field. So in the last season, we had the British Antarctic Survey's Lake Ellsworth project, and we deployed their entire field camp to the Ellsworth mountain range for a big drilling project they had over there. So having to design a system on, where you have resources, where you have infrastructure, and you have service personnel, and ensure that it works, and ensure that it actually functions for the spec environment, and then deploying it becomes tricky when you have this kind of complex supply chain. So what we'll be looking at very briefly are just 2 mint examples of modern research bases. And I have these photos courtesy of 2 of my friends that are, the one is a base engineer for the Neumayer base, Armin Gunter, and that is the German base, and then Dr. Holger Tulp is currently at Halley 6, which is the newest, shiniest British Antarctic Survey research base. So we'll be looking at those bases and just showing off some of their features, and then we'll just have a brief chat about how the Autodesk environment can help us as the end user to collaborate with designers and actually get something that serves our purpose and suits our needs. So once again, to avoid those facepalm moments. So when you design for Antarctica, it is the coldest, windiest, driest place on Earth. Wind causes vibration, cold causes modules to shrink, to leak air, and so forth. and the dryness, UV radiation damages a lot of your components or your materials. So that's one major consideration. Now, these bases are always modular and multifunctional. So in the case of our comms box, so to speak, even the new structure has several different personnel with different mandates or different requirements. In the case of the bases where I've worked, you'll have research facilities, and above them you'll have sleeping quarters. So there's different aspects of needs that you have to look at. Now, in terms of the supply chain, we estimated that to fly a can of Coke into the area where I currently work costs about $20. I'm speaking under correction, but that was the estimate. It's absolutely insane to bring things onto the ice. And you don't have do-overs when you're on the continent, because you have a 3 or 4 month build window depending on your latitudes. At Union Glacier, we have sun for about almost 4 months of the year. Sunlight, and it's only during that time that you can deploy these systems. You don't have a builder's warehouse or a non-ferrous metals or an additional service crew to just jump in if there's a bit of a mess. So you have to do it right first time. Neumayer 3, I was there during its commissioning 2 years ago. That is Armin, who was the base engineer at the time, and he's currently one of the service engineers for the Alfred Wegener Institute. Now, this base is built on the ice shelf, so where, Chris, your base sank away during the course of time, what happens is you get a phenomenon called sastrugi. And basically what it means is that if you have an object and the wind hits it, the wind often carries snow. It has suspended snow, and as the wind hits it, it builds up a mound of snow behind it. And we've seen after one summer how sastrugi has covered diesel bowers that are 3.5 meters high. And then you have to bulldoze these things out. So it starts with a little mound of snow because the wind's turbulence drops out snow, and then it builds towards the object and progressively covers it. Now, the way this base, or the designers avoided it, is by giving it legs. So that's what it looks like. Now, you have a hangar going underneath the base. There's a little German door in the front, compliments of the German designers. And if you go underneath, you have big legs, hydraulic legs. And what they do every couple of months is they actually lift these legs and they lift the base. So the way they do it is charming, massive. Well, I'm sure they don't see any occupational health and safety issues with that, but that's a massive mothership. And our friend over there is busy just clearing out some snow. In case it's uneven. But they basically lift the legs, bulldoze in new mounds of snow, and then eventually you have something like over there in the top left, and they hoist up the entire base. So they keep it above the surface. If they don't do that, you will have an ice buildup. They are out on the ice shelf, about 15 kilometers away from the sea, and the base will literally sink away into the ice and disappear. And then they won't see any woman or sunlight for X amount of time. So that is the way they have gone about solving it. Neumayer is beautiful. It is absolutely amazing. We met their service crew several times. We had to go there for a rescue expedition where one of their geophysicists had a severe injury. And our doctor, myself, our German team leader, and one of the diesel mechs spent 3 days going to the base in absolute horrendous weather to help with the surgery. So we experienced the base in its complete novelty. We experienced it during the first year of commissioning. There's ice cream everywhere, beer on tap, flat screen MacBooks. It's wonderful. It doesn't look like Antarctica, but it withstands the conditions. This over here is the new heli base. We, as Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions, actually deployed the service crew and the overwintering crew for this base. Dr. Tulp sent me these photos just several weeks ago, and that is the central module. Now, heli is made up of 8 modules, and they avoid sinking into the snow, also with legs, but they actually drag the base. The legs have skids. So you have these state-of-the-art structures that are designed to move around, to have play. I witnessed some of the videos from the construction team of having to align these modules in Antarctica, a lot of slip on the ice, heavy machinery, an absolute ordeal that they faced as a service crew. Chief engineer aged by about a decade in the 1 month in Antarctica, but that is their new base, and it is serving its purpose as a research station and an observatory. So that is the new Heli 6. Absolutely stunning. So that's just a halo. We see lots of those in Antarctica. As you can see over here, can you see the sastrugi under the base? The buildup of snow due to the aerodynamics of the base. So every couple of months they have to haul up the ladders, move all the reticulation for the comms equipment, and then drag this base. And this, I hope, even to the die-hard AutoCAD ninjas, I hope you have some appreciation for what goes into designing something like that. Bear in mind, living quarters, research facilities, diesel generators. It is a self-sustaining community that is housed in these structures. Just some photos of the base with the auroras. So what I have found as an end user is that when our teams design structures, especially now with the commissioning of new structures that we have at Union Glacier, is that we're sitting with an interdisciplinary environment. We have different needs. For example, in the comms module, we have field operations managers whose needs are to connect with the air traffic control, with the meteorologists and so forth. And then we have our own needs. I need to see the airstrip. I need to be able to access my equipment and to be able to service the equipment and perform engineering tasks on them. And the meteorologists, of which Chris was one, don't want to go outside to do weather obs. And I've had to do that at 5 in the morning, fill in for our Met Gussie, as we call them. And you have to pop your head out a hatch and the wind just blasts you and you've just woken up. It's not fun. So to give you an example of how these designs help us, we submitted specs 2 seasons ago for the design of this new module. And from comms side, we had certain requirements and certain specs that we gave to the design team, and this was to the building design team. And then field ops, or the field operations managers, had their requirements in terms of the office layout and the office space. And then our meteorologist came along and he wanted an observation dome, which is fantastic. But it was all considered and it was designed, and the design team came back to us and said, well, appraise. Now, we're all sitting on different continents. Now, this is something where Autodesk is particularly useful in terms of collaboration. All sitting, myself in Africa, meteorologists in Belgium, some of the operations guys in Oz, and others in the United States, design team in the States. And immediately it occurred to us that the weather observation unit was obscuring our view of some critical parts of the runway. Now, that is something that would probably go to design phase if we didn't have an opportunity to collaborate and to actually give end users their, an opinion or an opportunity to venture opinions. So what I've seen with visualization is that it gives you, if we see these models, there's so many factors to consider from so many different environments. We have scientists to consider, their equipment, their types of endeavors. We have the service personnel, all the amenities and the key functional components of the base. And when we have a model, it is very easy to do a holistic appraisal, and it gives you an intuitive appraisal. I've seen designs where I can tell the designer immediately, look, there's no radome. Where are you going to put the radome for the satellite dish? The satellite dish cannot be out exposed. And they didn't consider that because they just received a spec and made assumptions. And that's what often happens out in these design environments. So at the end of the day, it avoids do-overs. It truly avoids do-overs. We've seen random things like the water overflow for water tanks that is positioned right next to stairs. And as you might imagine, water freezes as soon as it gets outside. So now you have an overflow valve that is cascading onto the area where you need to exit the base. Things like that, where you have a collaborative environment now, and ops, comms, met, all of the parties sit together, different continents, and we can make an appraisal immediately and say, look, unfortunately, Mark de Keyser, your observation dome will have to move or it will have to be removed. And that's the kind of things where it's truly benefited us. So at the end of the day, what it means to us, it's cost savings in terms of logistics. We don't have to have do-overs. We literally build, deploy. And the benefit that I see in it is that it's, this kind of software has brought the end user like myself a lot closer to the design environment, to have direct contact with the designs and to give constructive inputs that they would completely overlook otherwise. So just quick rundown. We're launching a virtual job shadowing portal in a couple of months' time. As I mentioned, our workshops are starting this weekend. So if you're a parent with a grade 11 or matric child, don't hesitate to come talk to me. But thank you for your time. I see I'm James, and I'm about to be pulled off stage. Thank you very much for your attention.